Hello, everyone. This is Mahlena Ray Johnson with For Nerdy Girls with Mahlena Ray Johnson. That's me. And today's video is I Hate Networking, the ABCs of how to make friends in business. E is for educate your audience. And there are 3 things that we're going to go through today. 1, tell people who you are. Oh, because your fans can't buy what they don't know about. So 1, tell people who you are. 2, tell people what you want. And 3, tell people why what you want is important to you. And I'm going to be using the example of my 4th book, Love It or Luau. But first, let's introduce me again. I am Mahlena Ray Johnson, and I went to Loyola Marymount University for film school. I went to the University of Southern California for business school, where I got my MBA in marketing, entertainment, and entrepreneurship. And over the past 10 years, I have done hundreds of informational interviews and video coffee chats. I did one today. And I've gone to hundreds of networking mixers and conferences and connected with thousands of people at this point, which is amazing to me. So I am immensely qualified to help you make friends in business. All right. Oh, and the other thing, I am a 3-time author, and I'm working on my 4th book, Love It or Luau, which will be mentioned in this video. It's a romance novel about a refugee suffering from PTSD who is scared to fall in love with a single dad. So back to today's topic. E is for educate your audience. Now, educating your audience means that the people that you speak with, either one-on-one or in a small group or in a large group, in a large forum, need to know who you are and what you're about. What are you doing and why? Often, people don't know exactly what you want them to take away from their interaction with you. So you have to tell them. And this can change at different times, even with the same person. So as I mentioned as well, your fans can't buy what they don't know about. So I'm going to give you a specific example that you can draw inspiration from in my own life. As I mentioned, I am working on my 4th book, Love It or Luau. And when I started this book in 2017, and I didn't think that I was going to write a book in 2017 because that wasn't my plan. My plan was to create a profitable business project that helps other women succeed at their goals and be amazing people and share their gifts with the world. What happened in 2017 was an escalation of whitewashing in media and entertainment, specifically in television and movies. And as I've told this story multiple times now, but not everybody watches every video because I don't have time for that. Essentially, I was inspired to write Love It or Luau after learning about the Iron Fist controversy. Now, many of you probably don't know what Iron Fist is. It's a comic book. It is now a Netflix series in the Marvel Universe. Iron Fist was based on the comic book that came out in the 70s. It's similar to Kung Fu, The Legend Continues, something with David Carradine, in that it was about a white man who lives in China and he becomes the best martial artist in the world. And then he returns to the United States to take over his family's billion-dollar company. And when this came out that Marvel was going to do this show, people said, why don't you not do that? Because that was racist back then, and it is 2017 at the time, or 2016 probably when they started the whole announcement. And some people suggested that the lead character be an Asian American person who grew up in China, became the best martial artist, came back to the United States to run his family's billion-dollar company, and he is torn between his Chinese roots and his American roots and not feeling like he belongs to either one of them. And that would reflect a lot of feelings that people of Asian descent have, not feeling, if they're part of the Asian diaspora, not feeling like they're from their country of ancestry and their country that they were born in or that they grew up in. And so the people in charge of the show said, okay, we'll consider that. And they they had people audition. They had Louis Tan audition, and he is an actor and a model who grew up doing martial arts. And he went in and auditioned for the role, and they said no, and they gave him a smaller part in the production. And instead they went with another gentleman named Finn, who was not a model, not an actor, not particularly charming, not great at acting, and who had not studied martial arts. But he was white, and he got the role. And people have been complaining about Iron Fist ever since. So I said, after other stuff had happened as well, I was like, this is not great. And at the same time, I was inspired by a character who has been with me for a while, that I've been writing about in a more of a tertiary sense for a long time, and was coming up with a story for her. What would happen after such and such happened? And so the character is Casey, who is the star of Love the Luau. She is a 34-year-old woman who happens to be Chicana and from Southern California, and she ends up in an island on the South Pacific, and two of her love interests are men of Asian and Pacific Islander descent. Now, that gives you a background as to why I am writing this book, because it really means a lot to me to show diversity and inclusion and not just complain about it, but actually have it as the media that I am creating, which is consistent with what I've been doing before. My previous books all are about colorful women who live in multicultural contexts and want to do something amazing. So this is consistent with me, but if I just tell you I'm writing my 4th book, it's a romance novel, check it out, you don't have that whole backstory of why I'm called to write this novel and why it means so much to me. All you know is Malena's writing another book. It has a title. There's the picture. I'm going to go get it. When you know the why behind the book, people react in a completely different way. They're like, oh, you're writing your 4th book. That's impressive. When I tell them about how I want to not just complain about the lack of diversity and inclusion in media, I'm trying to do something about it. Here's why. Here's what's happening. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And then they start telling me their stories about the lack of diversity and inclusion that they're seeing and their own journeys of wokeness. And it becomes a whole conversation instead of just a advertisement about, I'm doing this, you should check it out. Similarly, you need to tell people who you are. So who I am in this context is an advocate and a passionate proponent for diversity and inclusion in media. As you know, my big goal, my big impossible goal is to smash the patriarchy. To do that, I have a slightly smaller impossible goal, which is to become a billionaire mom, only 1 billion to go. And to do that, I need to build a supportive network and systems, which includes you. This is why I'm doing For Nerdy Girls, not just to become a billionaire mom, but because I need to help other people see their possibilities and that we can build networks together and all rise together and do things to change the world for a positive way. That's who I am. I am someone who wants to smash the patriarchy and create wonderful things and get wonderful things created so that other people can see themselves in media and feel like they have a voice in the world and that they can do amazing things. What I want is to have more stories out there for more people. So I also tell the story of the creation of this poster. I made it myself. It was incredibly hard to find a stock photo of a Chicana woman. It was hard to find a stock photo of a man of Asian Pacific Islander descent. Now there are lots of different types of Asian people, but I wanted someone who could possibly reflect the incredible diversity of the Pacific Islands. Those are really hard separately. Together, and try to get it on a beach, like just finding a Chicana woman and a man of Asian and Pacific Islander descent in the same photo, not even next to each other, is so hard. And I tell that story because this is the closest I got, and I put it together and put it in Canva, and this is what I got. So I want to let people know that it's not just coming up with this idea, but actually being able to visualize it is difficult, and I want other people to know that and recognize that. So it may give some explanation for the context that we're living in. It's not just, I just pick these random people and put them here. It's that this is a big issue that I want to do something about. So I want other people to know about it and be aware of it, because a lot of people are just kind of sitting by themselves thinking, I wish there were more Asian people on the screen, and not realizing there is a whole extensive conversation going on about that. So I want more people to be aware of the conversation and the lack of representation, and let them know that they're not alone. And 3, why is this important to me? It's important to me because I grew up in the 90s, and near the end of the 90s was a time when there was a lot of representation on screen of Black women, but they didn't always reflect me. So I was definitely more of a Daria person, and there was also Jodie at the school, and I liked both of them. But there wasn't someone who represented both of those qualities at the same time in other shows. I mean, there weren't even shows that represented those separate qualities at all in other shows. And then it got worse. There weren't a lot of the stuff that was marketed to me didn't even have Black women in actual roles, didn't have well, I was a young lady at that time, young women who maybe just, liked to read and didn't necessarily want to be into popular stuff. And it was really hard for me to be like, why are all the representations going away? I don't want that to be other people, and I know it is other people. So I want other people to have the experiences that I had at one moment in time in 1999 when I was somewhat represented, and now I want them to have that ability. So I want you to tell people why what you want is important to you. Maybe it's because you want people to feel better than you feel. Maybe it's because you actually want to leave a legacy behind of whatever it is you're interested in. You need to tell people who you are, what you want, and why what you want is important to you. Now, you don't have to go up to every person you meet and say this. You need to let people know in different ways why you're doing what you're doing. It can be hard, it can be really intimidating, but I want you to keep that in your mind as you approach different networking opportunities. So when you're in person and someone asks you what you do, or they ask what you want to do, be able to tell them, this is what I want to do and this is why. You don't have to be that lengthy about it, but let the other person know so that they can feel a connection to what you're doing. So let's say you want to go into banking, and someone says, okay, well, why do you want to go into banking? You don't need to just say, I thought it was a good job. If you want to go into banking because you want to make a difference, for instance, in your community and helping your community build wealth, tell someone else that. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, that sounds weird, but sometimes they'll be really connected, and a little light bulb will go off in their head, like mentioned here, and they'll say, you know who I should connect you with? This person who also feels that way. They might not be in banking, they might be in, let's say, marketing, or they might be in education, but that's another person that you can connect with so that you can start your dream going. All right, so as I mentioned, I created a test trailer for Love It a Luau, and I would love for you to see it and get even more excited, because I was so excited when I made it. But mostly I want you to get out there and start telling people, when you have the opportunity, who you are, what you want, and why what you want is important to you. And I want you to leave a comment if you're on Facebook and tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what you want and who you are and why what you want is important to you. And if you're not on Facebook, then email me at fornerdygirls@gmail.com. And if you're saying, I need help communicating with people, I can't even figure out what I want, I don't even know who I am, Mahlena, can you help me? Yes, I can help you. We can have a 30-minute breakthrough session where we can work on your communication so you can build the network that you want and that you need. Email me at fornerdygirls@gmail.com. Again, email me at fornerdygirls@gmail.com, and we will have a 30-minute breakthrough session so that you can communicate, connect, and collaborate. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.